In the bustling city of Accra, Ghana, a wealthy businessman named Kwame Mensah was known for his ruthless ambition and cunning ways. Kwame had built his empire by crushing anyone who stood in his way. He was feared by his competitors and even his own employees, who knew better than to cross him. Greed was his driving force, and nothing mattered to him more than power and money. One evening, while having drinks with his childhood friend, Ya, they began to argue about how powerful Kwame really was. Ya, who was tired of Kwame's arrogance, made a bold bet. He challenged Kwame to marry a filthy street beggar named Amma for 1 year. If he could do it, Ya would give him $5 million. Kwame laughed at the idea but couldn't resist the chance to prove his friend wrong and add to his wealth. He agreed, thinking it would be an easy task. Amma was no ordinary beggar. Life had been cruel to her. Years ago, Kwame's company forcefully took over her family's land, leaving them homeless. Her father, Kofi, who couldn't bear the shame, fell ill and died shortly after. Not long after, her husband passed away in an accident, leaving her to care for their 2 children alone. When illness struck, she watched helplessly as her daughter passed away from malaria. Her son, Kwesi, also died due to hunger and sickness. Left with nothing, Amma turned to the streets, begging to survive. Unaware of her past, Kwame approached Amma on the street, offering her food and new clothes. This he did continually for 2 months in order to gain Amma's trust. As time passed, he became a familiar figure in Amma's life. He would come, give her food and clothing, giving her the impression that he was doing all that for the sake of charity. One quiet morning, after give her things as usual, he made an unusual proposal to Amma. "Marry me and I will transform your life for better." Amma, who knew who he was but pretended not to recognize him, was surprised at the proposal. Suspicious at first, she listened as he explained the marriage proposal. He didn't bother hiding the fact that it was all just a game to him. He even told her about the $5 million he would get if he stayed married to her for a year. Amma saw this as the perfect chance to get close to the man who ruined her life and that of her families. With a cold heart, she agreed to the marriage, planning her revenge. Their wedding was a quiet affair. Kwame refused to invite his family or friends, embarrassed to be seen with a woman who looked like she hadn't bathed in weeks. He paid the officials well to keep things private and quickly took Amma to his luxurious mansion, hoping to hide her from the world. From the first night, Amma, who was on a mission, made his life difficult. She refused to change her dirty clothes or bathe, bringing a foul smell into his expensive home. She spread her things around the house, leaving his once spotless rooms in complete disarray. She ate noisily at the dining table, using her hands and spilling food everywhere. Kwame was disgusted but tried to endure it for the sake of the money. Amma enjoyed watching Kwame squirm in discomfort. She would walk around the house singing loudly off-key while he tried to work. She played pranks on him, like putting salt in his coffee and locking him out of his own bedroom. When his business partners came over, she made sure to embarrass him by greeting them with dirty clothes and bare feet, scratching her head and acting like a madwoman. His friends started whispering behind his back, and his business began to suffer as people lost respect for him. Clients refused to visit his house, and rumors started spreading that he was cursed. Even his employees noticed the change, as he became easily irritated and distracted. Determined to fix his image, Kwame tried everything to change Amma. He hired maids to clean her up, but she chased them out of the house. He bought her expensive clothes, which she deliberately tore and dirted them. He even tried to bribe her, offering her money to act like a proper wife in public, but she only laughed in his face. One evening, he finally lost his temper and yelled at her, demanding to know why she was making his life miserable. Amma looked at him coldly and asked if he remembered Kofi Owusu. Confused, Kwame said he didn't. She then revealed her identity and told him about her father's land, his death, and the loss of her children. She explained how she had suffered because of his greed and how she had waited for years to make him feel the pain she felt. Kwame was stunned. He tried to defend himself, saying it was just business, but Amma's tears silenced him. She showed him the only picture she had left of her children and described the hunger and pain they went through. For the first time, Kwame felt guilt. He realized his actions had real consequences, and Amma's misery was his doing. But Amma wasn't done yet. She continued her revenge, refusing to leave his house and doing everything she could to make his life a living nightmare. Kwame, trapped by his own greed and pride, could only watch as his world began to crumble around him. He started losing important deals, and his reputation was ruined. People gossiped about how the mighty Kwame Mensah was brought down by a beggar. His friends abandoned him, and even his closest business partners distanced themselves, fearing his bad luck would affect them. Desperate, Kwame tried to negotiate with Amma, begging her to leave and offering her money and property, but she refused. She wanted him to feel helpless, just as she had when he took her family's land. As the days turned into weeks, Kwame's health began to suffer. He lost weight, couldn't sleep, and was constantly anxious. Amma watched him suffer, but her heart was still cold. The pain of losing her children haunted her, and she couldn't bring herself to forgive him. One night, after another failed attempt to convince Amma to leave, Kwame broke down in tears. He admitted to himself that he had caused too much pain, and no amount of money could fix what he had destroyed. But could he ever earn her forgiveness? Amma watched him cry but remained silent. Her revenge was far from over. She was determined to make him feel every bit of the pain she had endured. Days turned into weeks, and Kwame's life became a living nightmare. Amma continued her relentless mission to torment him. She filled the house with stray cats, knowing Kwame was allergic to them. She cooked dishes with an unbearable smell that lingered for days. When his business associates called, she would deliberately scream nonsense in the background, making him look foolish and unprofessional. Kwame's once flourishing empire began to fall apart. Investors pulled out, clients stopped taking his calls, and his company's stock value plummeted. He was humiliated when one of his biggest business partners confronted him at a public event, accusing him of losing his mind and questioning his judgment. Kwame couldn't argue back because Amma had shown up uninvited, wearing ragged clothes, and loudly chewing gum while standing next to him. The gossip spread like wildfire. People mocked him, saying he was cursed by the gods. His enemies in the business world rejoiced, using his misfortune to steal his clients and contracts. Kwame, who was once feared and respected, had become the laughingstock of Accra. Home things were no better. Amma slept on the couch in the living room, refusing to share a bed with him. She snored loudly and mumbled strange words in her sleep, keeping him awake all night. She left dirty dishes piled up in the kitchen, attracting flies and making the mansion smell like a dumpster. When Kwame complained, she simply ignored him, sometimes humming to herself or laughing as if he didn't exist. One evening, as Kwame sat on the balcony, staring at the city lights, he remembered his days of glory. Back then, he controlled everything and everyone. Now, he was a prisoner in his own home, trapped by a woman he couldn't get rid of. He felt his chest tighten with anger and frustration. How had his life come to this? Determined to regain control, Kwame hired private investigators to dig up dirt on Amma, hoping to find a reason to annul the marriage. But they found nothing. Amma was a ghost with no records, no family, and no history except the life she had on the streets. It was as if she had appeared out of thin air just to ruin him. Meanwhile, Amma continued her mission of vengeance. She invited beggars from the street to the house, claiming they were her friends. They ate all the food, sat on Kwame's expensive furniture, and even slept in his guest rooms. Kwame was furious but powerless to stop them, as Amma threatened to go to the press and expose his fake charity if he dared to throw them out. Kwame's health worsened. He lost more weight, his hair started falling out, and he developed a persistent cough. He visited doctors who told him it was stress and anxiety. He knew they were right. Every time he saw Amma's face, he was reminded of his failures. He was a broken man, defeated by someone he once considered worthless. One night, after a particularly humiliating day at work, Kwame confronted Amma. His voice shook with desperation as he shouted, "Why are you doing this to me? What do you want from me?" Amma looked at him with cold eyes and replied, "I want you to suffer, Kwame. Just like my father did. Just like my children did." She told him the full story of how he had destroyed her family. She described her father's broken spirit, her children's pain, and the cold nights she spent crying on the streets. She spoke without tears, her voice steady and calm. "You took everything from me. Now I'm taking everything from you." Kwame was speechless. He remembered the land deal. It was years ago, just another transaction to expand his empire. He didn't care about the people living there, only about the profit. He never imagined the consequences, never thought about the lives he ruined. For the first time, Kwame felt true regret. He opened his mouth to apologize, but Amma cut him off. "Your sorry won't bring back my father. It won't bring back my children." Her words pierced through him like a blade. After that night, Amma became even more ruthless. She tore up his business documents, deleted important emails, and deliberately sabotaged his meetings by showing up and causing scenes. Kwame's company crumbled. He was forced to sell his shares to cover his debts, and his mansion went into foreclosure. Humiliated and broke, Kwame moved into a small apartment, but Amma followed him there too. She refused to leave, reminding him that they were still married. With nothing left, Kwame fell into depression. He stopped eating, stopped caring about his appearance, and spent his days staring at the walls. One rainy afternoon, Ya came to visit. He was shocked to see his once powerful friend reduced to a shadow of himself. Ya felt a pang of guilt, realizing his foolish bet had led to this. He tried to cheer Kwame up, but nothing worked. Kwame was empty, his spirit crushed. That night, Amma found Kwame crying alone. For the first time, she saw him as a human being, not the monster who destroyed her family. She watched him break down, mumbling about his regrets, his loneliness and his shame. He spoke of his parents, how he disappointed them, how his greed had cost him everything. Amma felt her heart soften just a little. She wanted to hate him, but she saw his pain was real. The man who had taken so much from her was now just a broken soul. Conflicted, she walked away without saying a word. The days passed, and Kwame became more fragile. He started talking to himself, reliving his days of power and glory, only to realize they were gone forever. Amma began to feel pity, but her anger still burned. She wasn't ready to forgive him, not yet. But for the first time, she wondered if revenge was enough to heal her wounds. Could she ever let go of her pain? And if she did, what would be left of her? Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this intriguing story, please drop a like and comment on your favorite part of the video, and do well to subscribe to my channel, Folktale by Queen Mother. Don't forget to turn on your notification as well so you won't miss out on part 2 of this interesting series. Equally share this story and channel with your friends and family. It hasn't been easy getting here, but I really appreciate all of you who watched this story to the end. To have a lovely day. Thank you.